1977, I believe, in Chicago. He was being interviewed in the Playmate Lounge with a reporter, and after they had their lunch and their interview, he asked me if I wanted to have lunch with him, and I said sure, because I hadn't eaten. So we went around the corner to a place called Banquet on a Bun, and it was a little hot dog joint, and he was flipping hot dogs and French fries, and everybody in there was laughing and carrying on. It was so much fun. It was so much fun. The next day, I left and I went back to work. The next day, he phoned me on my private number at Playboy, which I didn't understand how he got that number, but he asked if I would join him for dinner that night. And I said, sure. I thought nothing of it. I know of him for 5 years. He told me to meet him at the Whitehall Hotel, and I showed up at the particular time he told me to. And when I walked in, there were 4 other men, and they were smoking cigars, watching sports.
Why did you think you were meeting him in a hotel?
I just thought that's where we would meet up and then go out to dinner.
Okay, because he was in from out of town, right?
Oh, yes, he was in from out of town. And the 4 men were drinking and smoking cigars and watching sports and playing poker. And he asked me if I wanted to drink, and it was early in the evening, and I said, oh, I'll take a little Grand Marnier. He didn't have the bottle there, so he sent a bellman to get a bottle. He came back about 15 minutes later with a brown paper bag, and he asked me if I wanted it on the rocks or straight up, and I said, I'll take a little bit on the rocks. And I did drink half of it, and the next thing I knew, it was 4 o'clock in the morning. I was in bed looking at him next to me. I was all bruised and battered. I slivered out of the bed, collected my clothes, was very careful not to wake him. I got dressed, and I went downstairs, got in a cab, and went home, took a shower, and went to work at Playboy. A couple hours later, he called me in the office and asked, why did I leave? And I said, I was scared to say anything. I said, had to go back to work. So he says, I'm sending you a gift. About 4 hours later, a 4-foot ficus tree showed up in my office with a note on it that said something to the effect that friendships have to be groomed like you have to groom this tree. And I didn't quite understand that, but he phoned the office again, and he proceeded to tell me that I had a certain way to water the plant and how to clip the leaves, and I had to groom this side of the plant, and I ended up throwing it out. He continued the call and continued to call, and I kept turning him down, and then he would call and ask for particular bunnies, and I told him he couldn't talk to them on the phone, and I would take a message. I took all the messages for weeks, and I threw them all out. I did tell my supervisor what he had done to me, and my supervisor said, do you know that that's Hefner's best friend? And I said, yes, I know, but this is what he did to me. And she said, nobody's going to believe you. I suggest you keep your mouth shut. And that's what I did.
You know, Miss Maston, when you retell that story, what does that do to you when you tell that story? What's going through your mind and your body as you're retelling that?
Well, when a person is raped, you're not only physically raped, but part of your spirit and part of your soul is raped. And when I tell this story, I can feel that part that is lost in me. And it's been a lifelong therapy. I have PTSD, and my job was to protect my bunnies, and I never, ever failed them, never. And for me to be drugged and raped by him was a secret that I've kept inside of me for many, 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 many years.
PJ, I've dealt with so many rape victims and child molestation victims, and a common theme is that in addition to the physical aspect of a violent crime on your body, there's the feeling of helplessness, of powerlessness, feeling like nobody believes you, and it's kind of your fault for some reason, and that there was nothing you could do to fight back. And it's that feeling that I have observed causes so much damage to crime victims. I want to ask you, you said that you woke up bruised and battered. What
Yeah.
do you mean like that? What do you mean by that?
My body had bruises on my inner thighs. I was bruised pretty badly, pretty badly. It was an act of violence. It wasn't a sexual encounter. It was an act of sexual violence.